Welcome to Forward Facing. I'm Andee Hastings.
I'm Mali Shadmary,
We are the founding partners of Hastings Shadmary Family Law,
an Atlanta-based law firm with a deep commitment to our clients, our community, and our team, whom we call the Wolf Pack.
We are lawyers,
We are also business owners,
partners,
bosses,
and best friends. Every day we work towards self-growth and mutual development.
Our 4 decades of combined experience gives us a distinct perspective on work, business, and how to navigate some of life's toughest situations.
We want to pass on what we have learned, introduce you to like-minded guests, and share our philosophies on staying positive and moving forward. Forward Facing is your inspiration to evolve.
Hello and welcome to Forward Facing. I'm Mali Shadmary.
And I'm Andee Hastings.
And today we have a guest that Andee and I have been waiting for a long time to bring on. We have got Blaire Herford from Rise Athletic Performance, but so much more. So, Blaire, you guys are about to hear an incredible story about somebody who has been here for me in my bodybuilding career, but even as a friend and as a role model, as an entrepreneur, as a mother. She is a leader in everything that she does. She's highly educated and so down to earth. She's drop dead gorgeous. She is accountable for so many things, not only for her life, but for other people's lives. You are in for a real treat today to get to hear from her. So without further ado, Blaire, we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the kind words. That was truly so kind.
Oh my God. I have some Blaire stories when we get going that I'll get to share about how powerful this woman really is. And she's a fellow Aries.
I am.
I did not know that.
Yes.
March 23rd.
Yep.
I just had a
Andee,
birthday.
lucky you. You get the 2 Aries today. Andee's a Scorpio.
Ah.
So here we go. Let's dive in. Blaire, tell us, I guess for starters, let's start where you grew up, where you came from. Let's go through life of Blaire.
So when I was little, we kind of bounced around quite a bit with my dad's job. And then when I was in 2nd grade, we landed in this little town, Lake Park, Georgia, near Valdosta. And we lived there pretty much for the rest of my childhood, so from like 2nd grade until I graduated. So that's really where I consider home.
Were you the oldest? Did you have siblings?
I have siblings, yes.
Okay.
So I have an older stepsister. She was 16 when she came into our life, and I was 10, I think. And then I have an older sister who's just 15 months older than me. So
Wow.
we're very close in age. And then I have my little baby brother who's not little anymore because he's like 6'2". So he's way bigger than me now. So I have a little brother, and he is like 5.5 years younger than me.
Okay.
So
Love it. Andee and I are both big sisters as
We
well,
are.
to brothers and sisters. But yeah,
Yes.
So are
nothing
y'all
like
the
a little
oldest?
brother.
Yes.
Yep,
Oh,
both the
nice.
oldest. Yep. So let's get into how things started to pan out for you as a kid and how that molded you. What was your childhood in the home really like?
So I want to first start off by saying I respect my parents. I never want to say, anything against them. They're phenomenal people. Ultimately, they raised me to be the person that I am today. That being said, my childhood was very turbulent. They had a very, what I would consider, toxic relationship. And it was very volatile for a lot of it. So it was a lot of walking on eggshells. And then that really just continued. So they got divorced when I was in 5th grade. It was a very nasty divorce. There was a lot of custody battles that we got brought into, unfortunately. There was a lot of feeling like you had to pick sides. And, as kids, we had to carry a lot of that we didn't really have the tools for. So you just kind of absorb a lot of that. And, I don't want to, there was a lot of love in my childhood. I have a lot of really great memories. But it was a very, very turbulent, volatile, unstable environment for a lot of it. But it's funny because they were both invited to mine and Lloyd's wedding, and that was the first time that they had been around each other in 10 years or more, 10 or more years. So it was really special to me to have both of them there, and it was very pleasant.
Yep.
once the initial shock wore off that they
Right.
both showed up,
Yep.
it was a really enjoyable experience. Like everybody was
Yay.
kind and, it was fun.
So I think it's such an interesting notion. Andee and I have talked about this amongst ourselves, I don't think on the podcast, but I think it's so applicable in family law for what our clients go through. Like seeing your parents and how they raise you, and then as an adult understanding that they're just human too, but it's like, how can I use the lessons I learned from how maybe I didn't like how I felt from how my parents parented me? How do I want to evolve from there? And I feel like that's something that you're going to be able to talk about too.
I try to really like make everything a learning experience. There are going to be times in life where like things aren't all unicorns and rainbows, and it's really important to find the lessons that are hidden in there. And kind of like what you had said of like, I love my parents. My parents did a phenomenal job
Clearly.
raising me. But there are a lot of things that, like, as an adult, as a parent now, I get to look back and decide, like, what I want to bring to my kids moving forward.
Yep.
And I get to decide, what I want to do differently. And I try to really, really be intentional about that, especially my 3 girls. I'm divorced from their dad. And so just making sure that I'm not repeating patterns that would be really easy to fall back into. And passing on to them things that, I didn't necessarily love. And I'm sure that sometimes, they would probably argue that I don't always do the best job of that, but I try to be very, very intentional. But anytime there's divorce in family, there's going to be hardship for the kids because that's not what they chose, you know? And kids always are going to want their parents to be together. That's just a natural order of things. And my kids don't like having to go from one house to another. I think for them it'd be easier if we could all be together. But we try to be very, very intentional. And honestly, when we first divorced, everybody thought it was kind of crazy because we still did all of our holidays together. So Christmas morning, that first year that we were divorced, he came over to my house. We did Santa Claus. We've been on family vacations together with like me and Lloyd and him and his new wife. So
that's awesome.
We try to be very, very intentional about the kids seeing us be able to be a united front and work together. And, that's not always easy when you're dealing with somebody that you couldn't get along really well with.
Right.
But there's a lot of like swallowing pride and removing emotions from situations and just trying to figure out like what is in the best interest of the kids because they didn't decide to be born. They didn't decide to be born into, a fractured family, if you will. And so just trying to do the best that we can to buffer that because those were our decisions that then, impressed upon them.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So let's talk about your early motherhood. When did you become a mom?
I became a mom when I turned 19. So after my freshman year of college, I just remember it like it was yesterday. I actually went to go get my birth control refilled. And I had a UTI, so they wouldn't do it at the time, so it was delayed. And then when I went back in to get it refilled, they have you pee in a cup and do all these things. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. It was summer, so this was at the camp. This was at
UGA?
So I wasn't at UGA yet. I was at Georgia Southern.
Oh, my God.
So I walk into the infirmary. I do all the things. I'm the only person in the waiting room. And the doctor came out to the waiting room to get me. And I was like, that's a red flag.
Oh, my God.
This is not
Oh, my heart just
usual.
dropped.
And so I'm like going to walk into the exam room because they've got the door open, And she's like, well, actually, we're going to meet in here today.
Oh, God.
And she took me into her office. And I was like, red flag number 2. This is not going well. What's happening?
Oh, my God.
And at this time, I'm only 18. And
my God.
She just sat me down and she just took a big, deep breath. And she was like, so you're pregnant. And I've had out of body experiences a couple times, but that is the one that like when I think about it, I am back in that room, like hovering over my little self, just having this conversation of like this can't be real life. And of course, like so many things are running through your mind. I just finished my freshman year of college. Like I was very, very education driven, very career focused. Like I actually never wanted to have kids, which is funny because I have 4 now. And my family likes to always joke with me about that. But like I did not want kids. I was not like a kid person at all. And so I don't really remember much of what she said after that. I know she was asking about like my relationship with the dad and
What was it?
Well, it was pretty much on theme with our whole relationship from start to finish.
Yeah.
We were always kind of rocky.
You were kids.
We were kids, and I think to me, because of my childhood, it felt more normalized.
Makes sense.
And two, like, just kept thinking that, like, we're young, we'll grow up, and things will make sense, and, you know, whatever. But we were actually kind of on the rocks. Like, I was actually planning on moving back home for the summer. I was living with him at the time. I was planning on moving back home. But honestly, the only thing that I really could think about, and I finally just told her, I was like, I'm sorry you're asking me all these questions, but, like, all I can think about right now is what my dad is going to do and say. Because I'm pretty terrified of that at the moment. And it's just because, like, I kind of laugh about it now. Of course, it's one of those things that, like, when you're in it, it's not very funny. But when you look back, like, my dad was very hard on me.
Yeah.
Pushed me very hard, way more so, of course, I'm going to feel like, than my siblings. And now I know it's because he saw that, like, I was capable.
Yeah.
And my dad really never asked me to do things that, like, I wasn't capable of.
Right.
It was just a lot at the time. And my mom got pregnant when she was 19.
Oh, wow.
My stepsister had gotten pregnant when she was 19. And I think that he just knew the struggle, and because he knew the struggle, that was, like, the one thing that he always said is, like, don't get pregnant young, don't get pregnant young, don't get pregnant young. And so I went to my friends after that. I went to their apartment because I couldn't go home and face Brendan yet. So Brendan is the girl's dad. I couldn't face him yet. And then finally I went to tell him, and I had my moment, so then I had to, like, be supportive of him and, like, it's okay, we're gonna make it, it's gonna be fine. So yeah, that was pretty scary because there's so many statistics that are out there that, you know, and now again, you could reword it as, like, what is failure? Who determines what failure looks like? But there's so many people out there that are like, you've ruined your life. Your life is over now. You're gonna struggle from now until eternity. You're always going to be playing catch up, and like, your kids are not going to have the life that you want them to have because you're starting off from behind. And I just really took that personally.
Yeah.
A lot of people be like, wow, you're like such a driven individual. And I kind of tease that it's more like out of stubbornness rather than anything else. Because I was determined, like, we're not going to fail. We're not going to be a statistic. Like, come hell or high water, like, we're going to succeed. And so I was at Georgia Southern then. I ended up transferring to GCSU for a semester. And then I had my daughter, took a semester off, went back to Athens Tech College because they did, instead of having, like, a semester, they did quarters.
Okay.
So it would allow me to get back in school sooner instead of having to wait until the entire semester was over. So I was there for a little while. So then I transferred from there to UGA. And that was about the time that Brendan and I ended up getting divorced.
Wow.
So I was going through a divorce, and at this time I was only 21.
Okay.
So going through a divorce, in school at UGA full time. My daughter was, like, almost 2, not quite 2. He got her every other weekend, but, you know, he's a 21-year-old guy, and you know, was doing typical 20-year-old guy things. And so it was really just me and her. I don't want to take away from the fact that, like, he parented her. He absolutely did. But just with the way things were set up at the time, and
you were doing the brunt
our
of
lives
it.
Were. I had her 95% of the time. And I didn't have family close by. Like I said, I'm from Valdosta. And so it was really just me and her.
That's crazy.
I would wake up, get her ready, you know, feed her breakfast, all of those things, get her to school. I would go to school, and then I had to work at her daycare because then they would give me a discount.
Wow.
So they gave me a discount for her tuition. I always worked the closing shift, so I would work until close, go home, feed her, spend time with her. Like, I was very intentional about making sure that, like, I was present for her. And then I would do all my schoolwork until, like, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would take a 2-hour nap, and then I would wake up and do it all over again. And I did that for years.
Insane.
Yeah, I ran on very, very little sleep. I actually
That's incredible.
had a seizure my senior year at UGA, my last semester. That was a scary experience too, because like I said, it was just me and her.
At the house?
So I woke up.
Oh my God.
And I knew that something was wrong, so I called and I gave my address first, and I was like, you need to get here right now because I'm home alone with my daughter. And we couldn't get in touch with her dad. He was in Atlanta. And so they had to load her up in her car seat and take her with me via ambulance to the hospital.
That is insane.
It was crazy. That, when I look back on that time in my life, it is truly so bizarre that I survived it.
Oh my God.
And she would get sick, and I would have to take her with me to college.
To the classes?
I have pictures of her, and everybody would tease that, like, she's got her UGA degree because she would come with me so often.
Oh, my God.
And she was just perfect. Like, she would sit, of course, me being me, I sat in the front row.
Of course you did.
So
were you, like, the kind that raised your hand to answer all the questions?
Yeah.
Were you, Andee?
Yeah.
See, I wasn't. I would be like, you can call on me, but I'm not doing it.
Well,
I'm not doing it.
to me, I'll tell you, I have such bad ADHD.
Do you? Okay.
That if I'm not engaged, I'm not going to know what's going on. I'm not going to retain anything that you're saying. So for me, it was more of like just making sure that I was engaged in what was going on in the class.
Okay.
More so than like wanting to see if I had the right answer.
Yeah. You had to be a participant.
I had to participate, and that's why, like, if I sat in the back of the class, if anyone sat in front of me,
all a distraction.
Everything is a distraction. So I mean, I almost had to like sit in the front and scoot my chair in front of everybody else's so that like I literally couldn't see anything.
Doing it with a bit. How old is your oldest daughter now?
She's 16.
16.
She's 16. She's going to be a junior next year.
So you got divorced while you were in college? Mm-hmm. And your co-parenting with your ex began then when you were in your very young 20s.
So we actually have a very unique and interesting story too.
Mm-hmm.
We got divorced then. So we were married for roughly 2 years, got divorced. We were divorced for 2 or 3 years, and then we ended up getting back together.
Mm-hmm.
So we, like I said, always on again, off again. That's how my parents were when I grew
right.
up. And so it just felt like familiar. And it's one of those things where, you know, when you're doggy paddling, trying to survive, you don't have time to take a break and take a step away and be able to look at things from an objective standpoint. You're just in it. Like when you're constantly in like an emotional state.
In fight or flight, like 100% of the time.
Yes. And like even now, Lloyd laughs at me because he's like, you're such an overthinker. But it really comes back to, I mean, from the time that I was little and then recreating my childhood essentially with my first marriage.
Yep.
But when you're used to like constantly walking on eggshells, you do what's called like scanning.
That's right.
And you're constantly scanning the environment.
Yep.
And you're constantly trying to read like, well,
Where's the
if
danger?
this happens, then this could happen. So I have to make sure that I don't do this so that we don't get here. And so I am definitely an overthinker, but it's because of how I grew up in my young adulthood also.
Okay, so we're bouncing a topic here, but I'm going to ask you this. So you came from that sort of like fight or flight, always head on a swivel, looking for the danger and trying to be adapting ahead of time as much as you can to protect yourself. At what point did that change for you, or has it changed?
When I started dating Lloyd.
Tell us about that, and tell us about the experience and why it changed for you.
It's hard to get through.
It's okay. We love it. We our people need to hear this. When you've been through trauma and you've had to fight to find freedom and safety, sometimes people come into your life and you don't even know it. They're about to show you a whole new world. And I think your and Lloyd's story applies to that. And it's a story of having hope and being a really strong woman, but being open to letting someone come in to help you make something even better.
Oh, 100%. So before I met Lloyd, I was very like, well, I'm still very headstrong. So I don't wanna, he'll be like, I'm sorry.
He loves it.
He's going to play this back and be like, you're not headstrong anymore? That's weird. No, I was very like aggressive, I guess you would say. And,
Me
like,
too, girl.
I wanted to be the head of the, well, I was the head of the relationship.
You probably
for
were,
a
yep,
long
in that
time.
first one, yep.
It was, you don't realize behaviors that you pick up on that are actually survival mechanisms that are put in place, but
So
they're,
true.
when you're taken out of that and dropped into something that's healthy, they're very toxic behaviors.
It's shocking,
It
yes.
is very, very toxic. And so fortunately for me, and it's kind of funny because if you know Lloyd is very much like a no-nonsense person. Like, he doesn't do drama. He doesn't, like, he's very big on respect, and that goes both ways. And so, like, for me to know him as well as I do now and look back and be like, wow, he really was very patient with me. Due to his personality. But he just really provided a soft space for me to land on. And I also, like, was very aware, or tried to be very aware of my own behaviors and, like, toxic traits that I had carried forward. And that was, you know, and then I got pregnant. So then you throw in pregnancy emotions on top of that. And it was like our first year of marriage was actually, like, kind of rocky. I mean, it was rocky, but it different than any of the other rocky. Like, we had a lot of really hard conversations. And he had some behaviors, you know, that he needed to work on as well. And he knew that. And so we really just, like, we set a high standard for one another, but we did it in a very loving and supportive way. And I just felt like he deserved to be loved in a specific manner. And in order for me to be able to give him what I felt like he deserved, I knew I need to do a lot of work on myself. So I hired a life coach, Tanya. She actually coaches for us too.
I hear a lot about Tanya. Hi, Tanya. She's
Tanya.
apparently very talented.
Listen, Tanya saved my life. I love Tanya. She truly, like, everyone needs a Tanya in their life. And so she just, like, taught me a lot of things about myself that, you know, I had picked up along the way. And I had to work really, really hard, like, incredibly hard to break a lot of habits that I had picked up along the way. But Lloyd was just always, like, he felt safe to me. It's funny, my oldest daughter gives him a hard time and is like, he's just emotionless. And I'm like, no,
he's not.
He just, like, you know, is very different from the males that we're used to.
Lloyd is my coach, and Lloyd, the way Blaire describes him is totally accurate. He is no nonsense, but he is pure safety when you work with him, and he's intuitive.
And calm.
His energy is, he's going to adapt his energy to what's going to make you feel safe. And he does it in a really expert way that, like, only really secure men and, like, highly evolved men could do. But for Andee and I, you brought up that you and Lloyd, the first year of your marriage, had really hard conversations. And what I can say is Andee and I, the first place I learned how to feel safe having hard conversations with someone I love and care about was with Andee, because I also came from toxic relationships, and my childhood wasn't that way, but that's what I became used to as a young adult. And I was able to start to translate having hard conversations into my romantic relationships. But when you're having those conversations and you've come from somewhere traumatic, you almost have panic attacks in those moments, having those conversations. You're shaking.
There were a couple of times I made you stay in the conversation. She was getting in her car and she was leaving, but she was just a wild stallion. She just needed to know she was safe.
And
and it's scary.
It's very
so
scary.
And, like, I did not have the tools.
Right.
I didn't have the tools in my toolbox.
Same,
I did not know. I had never seen what good conflict resolution looked like. I mean, I'd never seen it.
That's not
I didn't either,
unusual.
because my family didn't have conflict. And I adore my family, but we didn't have conflict. So Andee and I had to learn how to have conflict for me to go model.
It's so funny that you say that. So if you were to ask my kids if me and Lloyd ever argue, they would tell you no.
Yeah.
They would say no.
Yeah.
Now, and then on the opposite front, they do see a lot of conflict.
Yep.
And so it dawned on me of, like, conflict resolution has to be taught.
Truly.
But as parents, you know, we want to shield our kids from conflict as much as possible, especially, you know, within the relationship space. And Lloyd and I have actually talked about, like, we're going to need to, like, almost intentionally
Show them. Yeah.
show some conflict so that we can show how we move through that.
That's right.
Because that's the one thing that, like, I'm really proud of. Yeah. I am very proud of, like, myself. I'm very proud of me and him and our relationship and how we move through conflict. And it's funny because, like, that first year, a lot of it felt so overwhelming to me, but it was because anytime there was conflict, there was screaming, throwing things, yelling, like being locked in rooms, like all kinds of crazy, crazy things. And that's from like little to, that's all I knew.
Your nervous system is just shocked.
Yeah. And so anytime there would be like even a small thing, I'm like, he's going to leave me. You're bracing
yourself. Yes.
He's going to leave me. And I just love and adore. I'm like so obsessed with my husband. I can't tell you. Like, I am just absolutely obsessed with my husband. And so for me, it was even more of a panic because you have this person that like you can't imagine living life without. Yes. But then also on the other side, like you're used to like nobody's going to want to be with you. Like you're worth nothing, yada, yada, yada. And so like my brain would constantly take me back to
I know exactly
how I
what
was
you're
used to being
about.
talked to.
Yep.
And so I would hear those things in my mind, like he was saying them. And so finally he's like, you're like imposing things on me that I've never said to you before, that I've never like, you're feeling things that I personally have not made you feel. And so those are things that like we need to work on.
Yep.
But also learning that like, it's not about you versus me. It's not about being right or being wrong.
Right.
It's about like, how are we going to move forward together? Yeah. And what do we want the end result to be? And then let's reverse engineer from there. Like, what is the actual issue?
Yes.
And how can we work together on fixing it? So it was very much like a united front, even during conflict, which was very strange to me.
It is so strange, but it is possible.
It is.
Truly it is.
It is.
It's
it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of, like, removing your ego.
Starting with a clean slate, pretty much, like relearning yourself, recalibrating.
100%. And then also just being like, I can't stress this enough, being mindful of what comes out of your mouth. Like, words are like paper cuts. And my dad, actually, we were just there this weekend, and he used this analogy that was actually really, really good, and I had never thought of it that way. But words are like paper cuts. And when you get paper cut, like after a while, you could saw a tree down with paper cuts.
You're not going to heal.
You know? Yeah. And so
that's right.
We always enter into any sort of conflict with like, I'm not going to intentionally try to hurt you. Now, there may be things that I say that hurt.
That's right.
But sometimes we need to hear things that hurt because sometimes the truth is hurtful. You know what I mean? Like none of us like to think that we did something that hurt somebody that we love. None of us like to think that like we have problems that we need to work on on ourselves. You know what I mean?
It's uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. But just always starting the conversation off with, I love you. Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to work together as a team. I'm not going to say anything that's intentionally going to hurt you. You should not say anything that's intentionally going to hurt me. And no matter what, we should enter into the conversation with a level of respect. And those were just non-negotiables. Especially for him, because again, like I'm used to yelling, screaming, like having somebody, say the most hurtful thing that they could think up. And so it just like 180, and I'm gearing up for this war where we're going to scream and yell, and it's going to be this thing. I so relate
to that. You relate to that too, Andee, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, and so
I had no idea, Blaire, that we were so parallel, and that this is such an interesting concept, leaving something toxic and going into something healthy. So let me gear the conversation towards co-parenting. How many kids do you have, and what are their ages?
I have 4 kids, 16, soon to be 10, 8, and soon to be 4.
Soon to be 4?
My baby is about to be 4. I can't even believe it.
I still think of him as 2. So you and Lloyd have one, the youngest.
Lloyd and
together.
I have the youngest together, my only boy, and then the older 3 are girls that I have from my previous marriage.
All right. So talk to us about the dynamic with co-parenting, some of your struggles, and what we want is for our audience to just learn your story and some of the things you guys do to help your family have a healthy environment.
Golly, there's so much that kind of goes into that, and I want to be very mindful of how I approach it. It's interesting. Lloyd came in and I pretty much told him out the gate, like, look, this is going to be rocky road.
So, like, y'all are dating and you're like, I've got 3 kids and I'm divorced. Like, was that intimidating for you?
So it's kind of funny you mentioned that.
I think a lot of our audience
share
is
this
gonna
part because it's
feel
funny.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we love it.
Lloyd had been single for a little while, and he had been in the dating field. And while I was still married, he had told JP, he was like, "Man, I really just wish I could find somebody like Blaire." Now, I had no idea that he had ever said anything like this. Fast forward like a year later, and I had gotten divorced. We were dating, all of those things, and we were the type of people who were like, we're getting into our 30s. Well, we were in our 30s at the time. We don't have time to like mess about, right? So like, I have 3 kids. He actually did not date people with kids.
Funny.
Like that was his rule, is that he was not going to date people who had kids.
He broke that
goes
rule.
And here we are. So it was really funny. And he basically, out of the gate, he was like, I don't date people with kids, but I'm willing to try.
No.
And I want to, like, see how the kids are, see how we do. So, like, let's just have a play date where, like, other people are around so I can kind of see and observe and whatever. And so that went really well. Honestly, the girls are who won his heart, not even me, I don't
Stop.
think.
I never knew this. That is so
Because they would run in,
sweet.
Mr. Lloyd!
Oh, my God.
So,
and he's like this huge, if you haven't seen Lloyd, he's a huge dude.
Yeah.
So the fact that these little girls are just
Oh, yeah. They wore him down. They wore him down. Him and my oldest kind of butted heads in the beginning because she was 10.
Okay.
And, it was like I wasn't long separated.
She was probably very
divorced.
protective over you.
She was protective over me. She was protective over her dad. And just all of the things that come with being in middle school.
Oh, my God. Middle school
sucks.
literally sucks.
Middle school is terrible. But anyways, all of that to say, so he right out of the gate was like, look, you have kids. I want kids of my own. So like, if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, I want to know ahead of time because like, I don't want to invest all of this time and energy and whatever for us to get 6 months down the road. And then I'm emotionally attached and there's a big hard stop there.
Yep.
So we had a lot of life conversations, like really before we were even dating. We were just talking, and we talked a lot about that.
That's so important. So many people don't do that.
It is.
So many people don't do that before they get married.
Oh, my God.
And that's even crazier.
Somebody told me the other day they've been married for 3 years, and she just now learned what her husband actually makes every year.
That's crazy.
That's unusual.
Never had any financial conversations. That one shocked me. That's another podcast topic, what to talk about with your significant other before you get
Jot
married.
that down, somebody.
Yeah. But anyway, so y'all are having these tough conversations.
So we had a lot of tough conversations. He wanted 2 kids, and at the time I was like, yeah, sure. And then we went through my last pregnancy, and we decided maybe just 1.
Yeah.
I had like severe. So after my first and after my 4th, I had severe postpartum depression.
Okay.
And so that kind of like put a hard stop on having the second one.
Okay.
But I basically told him from the beginning of like, Brendan's going to be around.
Yep.
He's not going anywhere. Like, there's likely going to be conflict. It's very important to me because of my childhood that like we work through that in a very specific manner. And honestly, Lloyd, like I said, he is just so even kill. No matter what, he's very, very even kill. So he
really
actually has been helpful for me in terms of like not getting in my emotional side of things and just looking at things objectively.
Yep.
But also sometimes he gets kind of put in this weird place because
He wants to protect you and the kids.
he wants to protect me. He wants to protect the kids. And like, obviously we have our way that we like to do things. I am very particular. And this is one of the things that I've really had to work on is like accepting that my way is not the only way.
Yeah.
And that other ways can still be successful, even though it's not like how I would choose to do them. So he tries to remind me of that a lot. And just that, like, we can only control what we can control and we need to make the most of what we can control type of thing. Him and Brendan get along really well. They've had to have a couple of tough conversations.
I love it.
But I think, too, that Brendan respects Lloyd. I think that he knows that Lloyd has our best interest at heart. I think that he knows that like he would never hurt us. And so honestly, the level of respect that Brennan has for Lloyd has also been very helpful in how we navigate co-parenting.
I want to hit on that, Andee, because
incredible.
How many times in our cases do we see that the new significant other comes into play and wreaks havoc? They are the ones that create the future litigation because of ego. I've had new stepdads come in and just muck up the situation. What do you think, Andee?
Stepmoms, stepdads.
Oh, the stepmoms. I'm sorry, ladies, but y'all have, take it to another level.
It's not focused on just one party, but we deal with that all the time. Or it's one of the exes who's just bitter that the other person has moved on. And so they take it out on them that way. So, it manifests in all kinds of ways. So the fact that you have managed to create this scenario in which they respect one another.
That's crazy, and it's rare.
For the benefit of your children, it's very rare.
We absolutely have disagreements. Like we absolutely, there are times where we get upset with one another. We may get upset with the other significant other, but we always try really hard to bring it back to what's most important for the kids. It should be 110% child focused. And, I get that some people go out of their way to make it challenging to co-parent, but I just see that so much, and I don't understand why.
Oh, my Lord.
I don't understand
it's the
why.
Emotion.
It's so frustrating to me as a kid who grew up in that environment to see other people replicating that, because it's like y'all are playing a game with each other, but what you don't realize is the only person being penalized is the kid.
Yep.
That's the only person who carries that with them for eternity is the kid.
Yep.
And it's just not fair to them. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel very strongly about that.
Hi, everyone. Our conversation with Blaire was so great that we recorded for much longer than we normally do. So we're going to break this episode up into 2 parts. Part 2 will come in 2 weeks, and in that half, Blaire talks about her personal fitness journey, her life as an entrepreneur, and how she and Lloyd navigate being business partners and life partners. It's a great conversation, so please join us in 2 weeks for Blaire Herford Part 2.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. We would love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment or email us at podcast@hsfamilylaw.com. And be sure to come find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and at our website, forwardfacing.com.
Forward Facing is a production of Hastings Shad Mary Family Law and 1066 Productions. It is produced and edited by Ned Hastings.